Hello, my name is Tom Stiles, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show number 348. And what you're looking at is my newest little shortwave, AM/FM shortwave radio by Grundig. This is the Mini 400, and I was able to purchase this off of Amazon using some credits that I got from my subscribers who went through my Amazon store and bought something, and so I get a small commission, and with that commission I buy radios and things like this to review on my show. So I appreciate everybody that has used my Amazon store. It really comes in handy so that I can do this. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about this radio. I've seen a lot of these for sale by various websites and companies. I believe Radio Shack has this little baby on sale in black for like $8.95, but it's only limited quantities at your local store, and once again my local store didn't have it, so I bought this one from Amazon. I think it was $18.95 for the red. It's the same radio, but it's in red. So if you can find one of these at Radio Shack, I would suggest you get one, and I will tell you why. Anyway, here we go. So this is the Grundig M400, and it shows on the back here on very small print the bands it can choose, which is FM, AM, shortwave 1, and shortwave 2. Now, let's talk about shortwave 1 and shortwave 2. And you select the band using this little switch here. So you select FM, AM, shortwave 1, shortwave 2. Then, once you've selected one of the two shortwave bands, and for instance shortwave 1 covers 5.8 megahertz to 10 megahertz, and shortwave 2 covers 11.4 to 18.15, but they're not continuous. Okay. Excuse me. What you do, oh my gosh, there goes my sinuses again, sorry. What you do is you turn the radio on, this button here, and you select either shortwave 1 or shortwave 2, depending on what range you want to use. So right now it's on shortwave 1. So if I go in the back here, it says shortwave 1 starts at 5.8 and goes to 10 megahertz, but there are 3 sections. So for instance, I'm at 9.11, and here's the tuning knob right here. So I'm going down, oops, I'm going up, excuse me, we'll turn it the wrong way, and at 9.10 it stops. Turn this over, and it says that I've selected segment 9.1 to 10.0. So I can't go below 9.1 at this segment. So what you have to do is you have to use this up and down arrow, I call it, even though it's not marked up and down. Actually, it's marked SW plus and SW minus to get to those 3 segments that are in SW1 or the 3 segments in SW2. So I had to push this button, and it jumps to another segment. I was at the top segment for SW1, so that dropped to the bottom one, which if I turn this over, starts at 5.80, hence 5.80, and then I tune it. So my point is that it's not continuous tuning. So it's segments, and basically the segments are the international broadcast bands. So that's where that all comes about. So that's to me, that's one negative that you have to, if you want to tune quickly to the bands, you got to go to the top of a segment and then push the SW plus or FW minus to go up a segment or down a segment, and you can tune again, so on, so on. But to me, that's a little bit of a negative, but not a big deal. Okay, so that's almost covered all the buttons. Let's just go over the bits that I didn't cover. So this is the band, I'll call it, select, which is FM, AM, shortwave 1, shortwave 2. Over here is the main tuning wheel. Down here is the lock button, and I'll tell you something about that lock button. Here's the volume. Matter of fact, let me turn this noise down. Don't need to hear that noise. And then here is an AC adapter jack. Doesn't come with an AC adapter, but there's a jack for it. And on top is the headphones jack and the antenna, telescopic antenna, which is about 2 feet. So it's not real long. Now, one thing I don't understand about this radio is that it doesn't have a stand. It doesn't have a kickstand. I think it would have been unnatural to have a kickstand on this thing, but it didn't have one. So that's kind of a disappointment. And anyway, keep in mind, these are only, there's less than $20 for these radios. And then the buttons we have over here, we have the power button, alarm button, so you can set up an alarm. You can set up 2 alarms. And of course it has a clock. And then you can adjust the time. This is the time button. And you can adjust the time minutes and time hours, or the alarm minutes and hours. So that's all the buttons and all the switches. And that's it. Now it uses 2 AAA batteries, and as you can see, it fits right in your hand. It really feels nice in your hand. The finish, it's a nice finish. It's not glossy, so it doesn't show fingerprints. Display is nice and big, easy to read display. Now, one of the drawbacks though is the tuning, which is this little tiny knob here. A little touchy. So you have to kind of really be sensitive on how you tune it. And it appears to only tune at a hundredths of a megahertz. So this is like 9.955 or 0. So that's the resolution of the tuning. Yeah, it's a little tricky. But typically, your international broadcast will be on one of those increments, so it shouldn't be too bad to do. I have found, I did some tuning the other night, I have found a little touchy on this tuning. You tend to go past it, and then you have to come back and you go past it. So it's a little touchy, but with a little bit of finesse, you can do it. Now, the other thing is, what I noticed is that the shortwave reception is pretty darn good for this little under $20 radio. It's pretty good. And I saw a video that someone did several years ago, because these have been out for quite a while. Excuse me. With the particular one that person had, it drifted. So I thought, well, that's not going to be good. And it drifted bad. I mean, you could see it change frequencies a half of a 0.005 megahertz change in 30 seconds. Now, I don't know how long it lasted or if it finally stopped drifting, but he showed his drifted terribly. So I immediately turned mine on, set it to a frequency, and watched it for about an hour. It didn't drift a dime, not 1 inch. So I don't know if that was a problem with the earlier models or just that particular one he had. But this one does not drift. At least it doesn't appear to drift. What else? I think I've just about covered everything, nothing, much, something. The speaker is not too bad. The audio or the volume is not terribly loud. And if you turn it to max, you will get distortion. So if you got a noisy room or you're hanging your head outside your car, it's not going to work. So you got to be in a fairly quiet environment to hear this. But if you keep the audio down, and I can try to illustrate that. I'll go to FM, and I'll try not to broadcast anything I shouldn't. But like I say, reception is really good. I mean, I can pick up all kinds of stations on AM, FM, and shortwave. I think that's probably 92.5. Now that's not too bad. But you can hear, and there's max. Let me get off that station. So it's not too bad, but for instance, if I had my big fan on, which I normally have on in this room, just turned off during my recordings, I probably couldn't hear that, and I'd have to turn it up more. And when you turn it up more, you do get distortion. So be aware that if you're going to get this radio and you're going to use it in a noisy environment, you may have some problems. If you're going to use it in a normal ambient type environment, it'll work fine. And like I say, this thing picks up a lot of stuff, even though it's only got this little short antenna. I have used it on AM, FM, and shortwave, and it does a very good job. I'm really, really amazed at how well it's done. Now, I've seen reviews of this, and they say it's deaf on shortwave. It doesn't work on shortwave. Well, I don't know what, their radio may have had a problem, or maybe it was early production or something, but this radio unbelievably works great. And I think that right now you can get one of these red ones from Amazon, through my Amazon store, for less than $20. So this is, to me, this is a buy. This little radio is a buy. I'm not going to do a separate reception test, but I can say that my use of it in the past couple of days at night on shortwave, it's been very, very good. Very sensitive, not so much very selective. Like I say, it's tuning a little touchy. So that would be the only drawback. Now, it does track well, so that if you're turning this, you don't see any jumps or anything like that. It does track well, but this little tiny tuning wheel does make you jump if you're, not being very careful to tune it. Let me go back to shortwave here. Oh, I turned it off. Duh. And we turn the sound back down so you don't have to hear that noise. Okay. So let me get the light. There we go. So I can tune that very well. Like I say, the smallest increment is 0.005, and if you're listening to international broadcast, that should be good enough. Okay, one last thing. Turn the power off just a second. One last thing on this particular radio. The lock button doesn't seem to work because, okay, I'll turn it back on. And there it is on, we get the light right, 8.35. I'll push the lock button. So it should be locked now. it should not allow me to adjust the frequency. It does. So I don't know what the deal is on the lock button. I have never used on any of my radios that feature, but it's a good feature. I mean, if you got a particular station and you're going to carry this thing around, you would want the lock button to work. I don't know why it's not working on my particular radio, but it's not. Unless I'm just, maybe there's another sequence you've got to hit, and I just didn't do it. I don't know what I did with the manual. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I did with the manual. I know I when I first got it and I took it out of the box and I looked at the manual and I go, well, there's not a whole lot to this radio, so I really don't need the manual. Oh, there's what it does. It doesn't do what I thought it would do. It doesn't let you turn the radio off. Well, that's not really what I thought the lock button would be. I thought the lock button would keep it on frequency. Okay, so it's working, I think, but it's just not implemented like I thought it would be. So the lock buttons prevents you from turning it off, but it doesn't prevent you from changing the frequency. So now let's see if I can turn it off. Yeah. So I don't think that's very a good. That's not what I call a lock feature. Oh well. So that's a show today. I still think this is a good buy. I mean, this is a nice little radio that you can carry around with you. You know, it's easy to carry. You can put it in your shirt pocket, and $20, you drop it or you leave it sitting on a table at your local restaurant. Not a great loss. I think you should get one from my Amazon store. No, okay. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you like this review, please give me a thumbs up. That tells me that I'm doing something that's of interest to people. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. See ya.